because you haven't had enough to explain yet.
Oh,
Fortunately for all of us, so we have received a report regarding the proposed Dalles Watershed Development Act and its potential implications for Hood River County and provide direction to staff. So as most of you already know, there's a whole process going on where the Dalles, the city of the Dalles has rights to Dog River, which is in Hood River County, but they have not been taking all the water out until now. And we have been asked to take a position against the Watershed Act, which is a act that Congressman Bentz has to force the to the Forest Service to sell part of the land surrounding their reservoir to the city of the Dalles.
Could I just stop real quickly? Did you use the word force?
We're using the word sale.
Yeah.
Force the sale, yeah. I'm
It's
sorry.
not actually just conveyance. I thought it's transferring to, doesn't it transfer for no money? I thought it was giving it to them with no.
It's given, yes.
I think
Yeah.
conveyance.
That's
is
my
different.
understanding.
Okay, I should have said conveyance.
Yeah.
So, but in essence, require that they do that.
Yep.
So, which is a different word than force. I don't know, it has a different meaning. So, what we've been looking into so far is on a broad scale, are the irrigation districts in Hood River County concerned that this will affect them because of the water in Dog River, which goes into the Hood River? And if all that water was taken out by the city of the Dalles, which would mostly be winter water, it turns out in the end, would that affect the irrigation districts? So for from Hood River County Commission's point of view, we represent Hood River County. And so if there's an issue in Hood River County based on this, that would be something we would consider. Most of this has to do with the city of the Dalles and their reservoir and whether or not they would be forced to go through a NEPA process in if the land were no longer owned by the Forest Service, the environmental review might be different or less. All of these things are yet to be decided, and this process, no matter what we decide tonight, is going to go on for a very long time. But Arthur's done an incredible amount of research into a lot of the past water rights, and I know asking you to try and simplify it it's not simple, but so.
It's getting simpler the more I look at it.
All right, so have at it.
Okay. So first of all, in terms of framing the question, you were talking about, why is what would the County Board of Commissioners look at and why would we look at it? We've all received a lot of letters or seen a lot of people who are quite concerned about this, and every letter that I've seen points to the potential of additional municipal water being used by Google for more data centers. That's a thing which it's not surprising people are concerned about that. That issue specifically is one that I don't think is the county's, because municipal water supplies are allowed to be used for industrial uses. The city of the Dalles is responsible for making its plans. I hear the city of the Dalles saying certain things about what their intents are. I hear other people saying, no, your intents are really this. I don't think that's a fight that we have a place in.
Let me back
specifically
just a little tiny bit and say that when I was trying to frame what our interest would be as a county, I did say just irrigation. Clearly, we would be concerned about the fish and the temperature and the quantity of water. And the reason I short-circuited that is that those two things are actually connected, because if there were not adequate water and the temperatures were not adequately cold, that could impact the irrigation districts, because the amount of water the fish needs is very important to it could potentially affect the irrigation districts. and the water that they were able to use. So I wanted just to correct myself. It wasn't
Yeah.
just that, it's the whole river itself. And
I
then,
was gonna get there.
yeah, and,
You're pushing me forward.
and Arthur has also looked into what percent of the Hood River
Yep,
the Dog River actually provides.
I can do that in a minute. The specific question of whether we should weigh in on the industrial use of this water for Google data centers or for the city of the Dalles for other industrial uses, or for the city of the Dalles for drinking water, for whatever. That by itself is something that I don't believe is within our scope. But there's and similarly, I wouldn't want the city of the Dalles or Wasco County weighing in on whether Hood River City is using its water for beer and tofu, and whether the beer and the tofu is better than the data center, although it is. But as an official position, I would not weigh in on that, right? That
Depends on how
said,
good the beer is.
that's true too.
Yeah.
Okay, so that said, this is I got into this because it's a fascinating historical thing. It goes back to the Dalles water right is from 1870 and on Dog River.
1870.
1870, is that what it's?
That's what he said.
Yeah, okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1870, and in fact, the one on I forget the other creek that's right next to it, Crow Creek. No, not Crow Creek, the secondary creek, the Mill Creek, thank you, Mill Creek. The Mill Creek one is from the 1860s. So we have water rights that go way back, and they wrote water rights very differently. But so to understand what's going on, I read the water rights, and then I went up and I read the decision notice on the water pipeline project where the city of the Dalles replaced their water pipeline, completing in 2022. I read the environmental assessment, which has a ton of information. I focused on the hydrology section, which gives a lot of interesting information. I looked at the specific water rights and the storage rights. And so what it comes down to, and so I'm going to say what I understand to be the facts. And I'm not an expert on this. I talked to some experts, but I'm not an expert on this. We did talk to the water master. I talked to someone else who's quite experienced in these things. To understand how they saw it. But if someone's going to tell me that we're wrong, that I'm wrong in what I'm presenting, that's great. And that might change what conclusions I make. But what I understand is that the 1870 water right is the right to all the water at the diversion, which is way up above the 44 road on Dog River. And according to the hydrology documents in the environmental assessment, the Dog River drainage is divided into different reaches. The water that's above the diversion is 38% of that drainage. So there's the Dog River drainage, the full Dog River drainage. Of that, 38% is above the diversion. Dog River itself is 11% of the East Fork drainage. This is just by area. And you multiply those two out and you get that this drainage you're talking about 4%, roughly 4.2%, I think, of the total drainage that feeds into the East Fork. And I don't know what percent of the Hood River the East Fork is, but so we're talking about basically 4.2% is what the water right is for the city of the Dalles. Okay. This action doesn't change any of that because this is about storage of water, and storage of water is separate from the right to draw the water. So the water, what do I know with this? The pipeline was replaced. It was action that started in I think 2018 or maybe a little bit before that, but there was construction that started in 2022 and the construction was completed in 24, I believe, or maybe 25. So there was a process. There's a full NEPA process. There was a whole bunch of debate that happened about the process of allowing the city of the Dalles to replace the wood stave pipeline, which is what conveys the water from the diversion up on the 44 road to the Crow Creek Reservoir, which from there goes downhill and provides the municipal water, which is drinking water and industrial water for the city of the Dalles. In 1999, the Dalles applied for went through the process of looking at expanding the size of the reservoir. And in 1999, they were given a right to expand the reservoir and a storage right for another. So it was at 900 and something acre feet, like 930 acre feet. They were given the right for 2,100 additional acre feet. But in that process, it said that water could only be drawn to store in the reservoir in either the month of October or January to April 15th. And I talked to folks who are in this business, and they say that, yeah, it's been a long time since you were allowed to acquire additional water rights on the Hood River system and use any of that water for storage. So they could specifically use that water, use the water right from Dog River to fill that reservoir. What it says in the 1999 water right is that they first are to take water from
Mill Creek.
Mill Creek, thank you. There's some other word, there's like West Mill Creek or
Yeah,
maybe West Fork, Mill Creek, or East Fork or something. Anyway, they're first to take water from there. But if there's not adequate water in Mill Creek in those months of October or January through April 15th, then they are able to make up the difference using their original 1870 water right on Dog River. And so we checked with the water master, and the water master agreed that the interpretation is that water, the additional draw off of Dog River to fill an expanded reservoir could only be in those months. The issue that people are concerned about, okay, there's another piece which you need to know, which is the 1991. 1991, there was an in-stream water right, which basically attempts to establish minimum flows in Dog River, and it's defined as where Dog River meets the East Fork, as I understand it. And month by month, there's a minimum stream flow that's required. The water master stated that because the 1999 water right is junior to the 1991 in-stream right, that if there was not adequate water in the stream, then they would not be allowed to draw at the diversion during the months of October or January to April 15th. They wouldn't be allowed to draw that water if doing so would cause the stream to drop below the in-stream rights from the 1891 water right.
and that
Sounds making
is,
sense?
yeah, and that is the concept, that is the reason that this is, that's how this interacts with the irrigation districts, is that those minimum flows don't just apply to this situation, they apply to the irrigation districts as well. So those minimum flows staying above those numbers are important in Hood River County. Anyway, I just thought I'd.
Yeah, no, I think it's important for everyone to remember that, you can't measure each molecule of water and figure out, who's.
You need minimum stream flows.
Right, it's a stream flow, and that's where all the water rights and the seniority of the water rights and everything comes into play. So the question that people are concerned about is, are you letting this industrial user dewater Dog River, dewater the East Fork, dewater the Hood River Basin? And I completely understand why people would be concerned about that and upset about issues in that. What I see is that the dewatering potential is implicit in the pipeline project, which went through the NEPA process in between 2020 and 2022, or whatever the dates are on that. That the potential of dewatering during the 4.5 months when additional storage draws are allowed, which is what's foreseen under this bill, which Congressman Bentz is proposing. That is that only could potentially affect, the dewatering in October or January through April 15th, which I understand is not what we're, not the primary concern of folks. And that furthermore is subject to the minimum stream flows, to the in-stream rights from 1991. So
So
So-
when the pipeline went in 1999 during that process, that allowed them to convey more water because it wasn't leaking. But at that time, did they have storage rights?
So when they applied to replace the pipeline, they applied, I was trying to, I found someplace where it's had the diameter of the pipeline. I thought that I remembered it as being 18 inches, the wooden pipeline. I can't find where I saw that, but that's kind of what was in my head. But the numbers were, that it's believed that in the EA, the environmental assessment, it said that this action would increase the potential water flow from 12,000, so 12 point something C. Well, I forget what the units are. It's, yeah, it's not cubic feet per second, though. That can't be what the
But
number is.
what was the difference?
It's from 12 point something to 26.
So double.
Right.
More
And
than
so
double.
it was in the doubling range, right? And the math of the cross section of the pipelines doesn't make sense because the new pipeline was
Because you
built at
don't know
24
as much
inches.
about leaky wooden stave pipes. as
What
some
is
of
said
the-
in there is that the belief is that the leakiness accounted for something of about, I think it was like 1.8,
Percent
no, 1.8 of whatever the unit is we're talking
of the
about.
12.
So that 12, I rounded down to 10 and
Okay.
said that currently they're getting 10. If they didn't have leakiness, they would be getting 12. And the new right gives them 26. Okay, so again, I'm not an expert on this, but that's how I read it. So going with this.
We expanded the pipeline by.
So when the pipeline was expanded, thank you, there were comments that were submitted about people's concerns that that expanding the diameter of the pipeline would allow them for the first time to use significantly more of the water from the 1870 right. So that the 1870 right was effectively throttled by the diameter of the pipe. And if you allow them to expand the pipe, that increases the potential that they can dewater the system under the 1870 right. And that seems like something I would be really concerned about too. And if you read the decision, there's kind of a circular logic in there where they say, well,
They
That's-
don't have storage, so
they don't have storage, so and they don't have storage. Yeah, they don't have storage, so we don't have to worry about it because you couldn't use this increased capacity without storage. And what I can't tell from reading the decision is whether they included, so this was a decision made in 2022. So presumably they completely understood the 1999 storage right and were considering that when they said they don't have storage rights, they were saying they don't have storage rights beyond that. But I don't know that that's the right reading of that, but that's kind of how I would read it because it wouldn't make any sense for them to write a conclusion on that, ignoring the fact that there was an existing right. Now, that existing right has been twice extended, including as recently as, I think it was 2022 was the most recent extension, so it's extended for another 10 years. There's two different dates because there's the right to the storage of the water and the right to expand the reservoir, and those are somehow done differently. But the two rights have been extended now and they multiple times so that they're
So is
still open. And there was a process. There was a public process where comment was taken. And presumably also would have been a time to weigh in on the concerns about this additional right having an impact on the water in the river system.
So your conclusion is that in general, they have the right to take this water?
So
That it wouldn't
That's a-
affect us negatively.
if you want me to, I see Lisa laughing at this. It's water rights, right? So
You know,
it's really coming. So here's my conclusion.
Taken
I have a
quite
conclusion.
while. But so many people have asked us,
No,
and I'm
it's-
hoping
yeah.
that when people ask us if we're gonna take a position and ask us what's going on, this is a really good explanation, and we can direct them to this, to this meeting if they're curious about the upshot of it.
And I've talked to people and they've stated things to me, which after I read the environmental assessment, I know to be factually incorrect. So,
What's
def-
your conclusion?
I definitely encourage people to look at the primary documents. Maybe we should provide links to all of those. My conclusion is, number one, the nature of the industrial use is not our business. That is definitely the business of people who want to comment on it, and certainly of the people of Wasco County and the city of the Dalles and anyone else who wants to comment on it, but that's not our business. And that that most of the arguments I see were arguments that seemed relevant to the pipeline replacement, but not to this question of change of the conveyance of the land under the reservoir. The reservoir question, to me, it comes down to strictly one and only one issue, which is that the federal processes exist for a reason, and that they protect the rights of the water users in our valley, and that removing doing this in order to remove a NEPA process, I'm not thrilled by that. But having read all the documents from the previous NEPA processes, from the 2022 process, and as well as the lack of comment on the 1999 expansion renewals, I would expect, if I were the city of the Dalles, I would simply say, yeah, we'll go for the NEPA process and go through it and spend the money on it and go through it so you don't have the legal challenges. You can still sue someone under the Endangered Species Act if if they don't have to do the NEPA process because they now own the land, it's not federal land, so it doesn't fall under NEPA. They still, number one, they can't take any federal dollars or else they have to do NEPA process. So they can't do USDA RD rural development loans. I almost caught myself there. They can't do rural development loans from the USDA, US Department of Agriculture. There's a whole bunch of things that they can't do, and they're still subject to being sued under Endangered Species Act for fish takings based on claims concerning dewatering of the stream. So it's almost like, in my view, it would, I'm not their legal advice, but I don't think they're actually saving themselves a lot through this conveyance. But at the end of the day, I don't see that the results are going to be any different.
Well, there's also a logical reason why a lot of entities would like to own basically the watershed around the land around the reservoir, regardless of whether or not there's a process to go through.
This isn't
There's
actually,
no matter.
maybe I misunderstood. I thought this was, I seem to remember the size of this was actually it's not the entire watershed,
Right,
right? It's not the Dalles watershed, right? It's only the
but it's the land.
land under the
around
reservoir.
The reservoir.
Right. And
So,
yeah, so the reservoir is there. The reservoir is not moving, and this is the land under the reservoir that's currently owned by the US people, through the US Forest Service, would instead be owned by the
Dalles.
people of the city of the Dalles. And I do want to add one thing because it is important to say that I really found it offensive that the letters that have been going around used the term local politicians in a pejorative. It was used as an epithet. That you're taking this land and you're putting decisions in the hands of local politicians. And as a local politician, I find that offensive, and I shared that with the folks and made it clear that I don't think any of us benefit from talking down, from insulting the political process. The people of the Dalles elect their representatives are making decisions on their behalf. And you may agree or disagree with those, but they deserve some respect in the process. So I don't like that.
thank you
I
for,
think I've said everything.
yeah, well, thank you for reading all of this and digesting it and explaining it to us, because I think we all want to know, but more than that, all of these people, all of us are being asked by people who want to understand why we will or won't take a position on this. So this is merely a stop in the road. This process is going to keep going on for some time. I think we understand it better and can keep track of it. I'm still waiting to hear if what our irrigation districts have to say, but so far they have, at least some of them have a similar take on what's going on. So do we have any more questions? Do you guys have any more questions?
I'll just say, what I am suggesting, I think you just
He
got
doesn't
there.
leave much room for questions, does he? He answered them.
No, I'm gonna, but what it seems like, so I made a whole bunch of statements here. I could be wrong. I think asking people to tell me where I got it wrong is great. And I think waiting to get more information from our irrigation district is great. I don't see anything today that would suggest to me that there's any effect to us of whether the conveyance happens or doesn't. But
But, it is
Tell me.
actually, it's really kind of nice. We live in a community where an awful lot of people are concerned about the water, they're concerned about the fish, they're concerned about fairness, they're concerned. And a lot of people realize that we need to probably store more winter water in general, so that as we have more pull on our water and it gets hotter, we have more stored water. So there's a lot of different sides to this and to be continued. Anything else? Thank you.
don't ask me to repeat anything.
Thanks for the short version.
I know, I kept thinking, well, he's over his 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry about that, yeah.
One thing we did